Well, here we are at the end. First up, congratulations on getting through this. I mean, I know, it's not a big deal. That's what you want to say, but it is. Picking up something new in our age of left and right distraction, it can be pretty difficult. But here you are, you've gone through the course, and now you have a budding skill set under your belt. Uh, and hopefully after seeing a couple of launches we did and how to work with CloudFormation in general, hopefully you can see why this skill set is jumping up so much in demand. I would give it 2 to 5 years before infrastructure as code becomes synonymous with DevOps. It's practically there already with all of the automation tools like Ansible, Jenkins, and the like, but this particular skill will make it so that DevOps professionals and really anyone or any company in the tech industry, they'll be both configuring and provisioning their infrastructures in code. Now, what's next? Well, you've got the bare essentials under your belt, and more importantly, you have a mental model on how to learn and build these templates. And just to remind you, it's this simple. First, learn and build whatever service it is that you're trying to ultimately get into code, into CloudFormation. Learn and build that in the console first, and then build it in CloudFormation. Now, it doesn't matter what service you're working with or how big of an infrastructure you need to make. This will always work. Yeah, it is 2 steps versus just diving right into CloudFormation, but ultimately it will save you a ton of time. You won't have to make decisions on organization or the order to build things in. You'll just be able to use the console as a guideline. Now, if this seems like a shortcut or something, well, it is. But take confidence in this method because it's not a dirty shortcut. It's not a bad one. The reason being is that, well, AWS organizes the console in a way that it sees fit for its customers and how these services work. And so by following their lead, we get all of the benefits of their planning and thought without having to come up with something ourselves that may not work as your templates grow. And finally, if you're bringing someone on who's new to CloudFormation, but maybe they've done work in the console, well, this idea and this way to think about it is the fastest way to get them up to speed. That all being said, there is no substitute for learning this through experience. It's not that you can't do it piecemeal when your workplace requires it of you. It's just that, even though this ultimately makes our lives easier, there's still a number of gotchas, edge cases, and other things that you just won't pick up on unless you're building something. And understanding those gotchas can be quite time-consuming. And why? Because the CloudFormation feedback loop is long. You may or may have not discovered this while going through this course, but even though figuring out what works and what doesn't is far faster in CloudFormation than it would be in the console, that's not always the case once your infrastructures reach a certain size, once they get a little bit bigger. For example, if you launch a huge template that has all sorts of stuff in it and maybe a couple of errors, well, yes, CloudFormation can catch some of them from the get-go, but some of them aren't going to be known until it's trying to make all of those resources. So, for example, I've had experiences in the past from working with it in production and also when I was first learning it, where I'd go to make a change to this long winding infrastructure that I created in code, and I'd have to wait 10 to 15 minutes to see if what I did had worked. And if it didn't, well, then I got to sit there and wait for 10 to 15 minutes for it to roll it back if I want to leave that on, and then another 10 to 15 minutes to see if any of the changes that I'd made worked. And, a lot of those times, those little changes you're making are going to take you like a couple seconds. And when the changes are that small, yeah, that's nice, but if you have to do it 5 or 6 times, well, suddenly figuring out one small little error can take you hours. And so, unfortunately, that's a pretty inevitable barrier that you're going to run into if you're trying to pick this up independently. I say this as a what's next thing because it is next. A lot of that frustration, has been saved because, well, we're going through it together. But when it's 2 a.m. and you're staring the AWS console with bloodshot eyes because of some rollback, just know that it'll happen less and less the more you do it. But what else should you be on the lookout for next? Well, I'd actually spend some time getting to know the nuances of CloudFormation by building out something more complex than a security group. This means a project of some sorts, one that'll force you to use advanced areas of CloudFormation and expose you to more services in AWS. So for example, since IAM, or Identity and Access Management, is a fundamental part of everything in AWS, well, doing some work there is really important. Learning how to deal with scripting servers that you create, inside of CloudFormation is also very important because, well, what's the point of a server that doesn't do anything? From there, once you've gotten the vanilla project under your belt, just CloudFormation as it is, then it's time to start looking for tooling. So what tools out there exist that can make your life easier, simpler, or convenient for teams? There's a good number of options out there, but really none of them are going to make sense unless you have a grasp for CloudFormation, because you may have an answer, but if you don't understand the problem that it solves, it's not all that useful. Okay, now that all being said, if you are interested in continuing to work alongside me, well, you could also join our full course, Infrastructure as Code on AWS. Now, this is the complete package that will tell you everything you need to know about CloudFormation and Infrastructure as Code on AWS in general. By the way, we also cover in depth HashiCorp's DevOps powerhouse tool, Terraform. And we do the whole learning experience by making a project that will expose us to all sorts of advanced concepts. In fact, just to give you a look here, let me show you the course. So I'm logged into our Infrastructure as Code on AWS course. And right from the get-go, you can see that all the fundamentals we've covered are just a smaller step in a much deeper and more advanced learning experience. Right after we leave the fundamentals, we're going to dive into a fully fleshed out project that's going to teach us all the advanced concepts that are critical to working with CloudFormation. And not only are we going to do it in a project, but we're going to do it using a lot of these different key services in AWS that you should know how to work with. So we're going to look at the AWS Systems Manager, Parameter Store, which is a great place, a fabulous place to store secrets, API keys, and things that you don't want hard-coded into your template. We're going to take a look at scripting instances that we launched from CloudFormation using their CloudFormation init metadata and their CFN init command line tool. And this is a much more declarative and convenient, insane way to script your instances versus trying to code a bash script directly into JSON. We're also going to go pretty deep into IAM, so Identity and Access Management. We're going to take a look at permissions, roles, and the policy language, all right in context of CloudFormation. So that's all the security stuff, and it's very important to know. And then we're also going to set up automated logging with CloudWatch to set up a central place in the AWS console where we can get logs and information about instances that we launch. Now, this is central, central to DevOps in general, because when you have a ton of fleet of servers out there, you don't want to be, it would be impossible to try and get any real value out of logging into them individually. So we'll look at how to do that as well. And then we'll wrap things up in CloudFormation with how you would manage large templates. Because the one we've made, it's pretty small, but when you're creating full-blown infrastructures, these things can be tens of thousands of lines long. It can be really long. And so we'll look at how you can split those up however you like, just using AWS, and we'll also show you how to do it as well using Cloud Foundation, which is a tool that'll let you organize CloudFormation templates however you want, in whatever way that you'd want, without having to learn an entirely new language or framework. Basically, if you know CloudFormation, you'll be able to use that tool right out of the box. And then once we're done with all of that, we'll move into Terraform. And this part will be very fun because what we're going to do is we're going to come through here and build out everything we built with CloudFormation, but just using Terraform. And this is the perfect learning model because all of the main concepts, the hows and the whys, and what things do in AWS, that'll all be out of the way, and we'll be able to focus just on Terraform, what makes it special and what makes it productive. So we'll take a deep dive into the language specifics, the command line interface, the structure of configuration files, and the like, and we'll do it with the latest version. So version 0.12 plus and the 2.0 version of the HashiCorp configuration language. Now, just in case you're unaware, version 0.11 So the previous version, that is different from version 0.12. It's different enough to where they specified at the top of every documentation page. It's different enough to where 0.11 code will not work with 0.12. So you'll be prepped with this super in-demand tool, and you'll know the latest version of it. Now, on top of all the stuff you're going to learn, this was made to be convenient for you. So, for example, if we go into, say, splitting up our template, you'll notice in the lectures here, not only do we have the video, but we make sure to give you all of the code samples that we work with so that you can be up to speed without having to, pause the video every so often and, type it down and hope that you didn't have a typo. And of course, if there's any links or any relevant information that you should know about, we always make sure to give those links to you as well. Now, if you are interested in joining, the page for sign up is right here at this URL, and I will make sure that link is available to you below the video. And this is just where you'd go if you do want to enroll and continue learning alongside with me. All right, folks, that is all for me. As I said at the beginning, congratulations on getting through this. I know it's easy to say, oh, it's small, but you and I both know learning anything independently given time and schedules and everything else out there can be pretty difficult. So it's awesome that you came in and you got this under your belt. Now, if you have any questions at all, any positive or negative feedback, I would love to hear it. And please feel free to reach out to me at any time. And speaking of which, until next time, cheers.